Hi, this is Patty Paul. Welcome to the Living Wisdom Show. They say that wisdom is paying attention to the little picture while not losing sight of the big picture. Today, my topic is going to be our spiritual evolution. And I'm going to begin with a more expanded level of wisdom, which is paying attention to the big picture without losing sight of the little picture. So our spiritual evolution, the bigger picture of that is each one of us is a human being who is essentially a spiritual being. We're on a journey of discovery on our own unique path, and as a humanity here on this beautiful blue planet Earth, we come together for a common journey of spiritual evolution and human evolution. That is to say, the human beings that we are, so much more than what we were thousands of years ago. So keeping a sense of this expanded point of view, I'd like to talk about how we began our spiritual journey individually and collectively, began at expanded levels of consciousness. We each have infinite levels of unconscious being, unconscious mind, and our origination, that divine origin, was like an explosion, like a nuclear explosion. Scientists call it the Big Bang Theory. That explosion of divine energy which produced an infinite amount of consciousness energies. As we evolved, as we progressed on our path, as conscious beings and also as spiritual beings, we spread far and wide. Some made a choice to come to this beautiful blue planet Earth to have the experience of the five senses that are offered here in this physical domain: touch, smell, taste, sight, those senses, and in addition to those common senses, we each have psychic abilities, although those are not as developed in most people. At any rate, here we are in this beautiful blue planet, experiencing life as human beings. And originally, we started off as human animals. Our brains, way back when, and we're talking about 1 million years ago, our brains were what are called the reptilian level of brain, which is not more than just a little knob at the end of our spine. And that reptilian and a bit later the reticular levels of brain, very low level functioning, devoted to fight or flight, feed or fornicate, basic survival. And as time went along and as we evolved as human animals, there came a time for each one of us when we realized there was something more to life than mere existence, than mere survival. And at that spark of thought that there must be something more, that is when we began to be human beings rather than human animals. It was, shall we say, our first opening to the possibility of a spiritual side to who we were. More centuries and millennium went by as we had our experiences at a bit more of a development level as human beings. And there was a time thousands of years ago and even hundreds of years ago when still most of humanity was less civilized, shall we say, less knowledgeable, and so we relied on those who stepped forward to be the authorities, to give us guidance, to tell us what to do. We needed rules and regulations, much the way as children and as infants we needed to be taken care of. We needed to be told what to do. We needed to have rules given to us that we could follow because we just didn't have the knowledge and the experience to take more responsibility for ourselves. At this time that I'm referring to in our growth as human beings and as spiritual beings, the basics of various religious beliefs began to be formed, and those beliefs began to be organized into written text. The basics, not yet the Bible or the Quran or some of the other written texts that we're familiar with now, but the various writings of the different sects that had their own beliefs, who lived far and wide across the countryside in Europe and in those areas now known as the Middle East and the Orient and in Africa. Still rather primitive peoples, but with their own unique spirituality, what felt right to them as the groups they were. And archaeologists have discovered a lot about those early cultures, and actually have discovered how each of those cultures really had their own spirituality. They had art forms. They were not primitive cave dwellers in that sense. But as time went by, and as a humanity, in a sense, we took a turn off the path. We took a turn to the right, shall we say, to explore a, shall we say, subsection of spirituality based on a patriarchal mindset. In other words, based on, number one, that there can only be one spiritual authority, that they decided, and we all cooperated. We've all had many lifetimes, so it's not about blaming early cultures. We all participated in this in many ways. Making a conscious choice, so to speak, or unconscious choice, that in this hierarchical system that we felt was appropriate at the time, where there can only be one top dog, patriarchal we were, which meant that the masculine and everything masculine was superior to the feminine and everything feminine. As these religions became organized into these written belief systems, and then writings were created and collected, and a document, a text, shall we say, the Bible, was created from those collections of writings. The Bible, the information that was used for the Bible was collected, edited, written, rewritten, parts deleted, other things added over many centuries, basically from the point of view of those in power who were in those days and today, as a matter of fact, of the masculine persuasion. Men and others who support the idea that the masculine is superior to the feminine. A father god was an invention that was added to the Bible. The original early writings of the Gnostics and others who had prevailed throughout the countryside had references to the goddess, had references to God and goddess as co-creators, shall we say. But as the information was edited and revised and changed and modified to bring it forward to the current day, all references to the goddess were deleted. At any rate, that is sort of the overview of where we are in the consensus version of human spirituality. Organized religion, and there are many who believe that to be spiritual you must subscribe to these old religions that have been around for a long time, that prevail today. As it turns out, many now, with our new knowledge, our expanded access to information, I mean, we have television and the internet, we have wireless communication. We are oh so much more knowledgeable than those early ones who basically had no knowledge and depended on authority figures to tell them what's right. So more and more these days, people are not finding the answers about spirituality that they seek. The religions that have been around for a long time are valuable. It's not like they're bad and wrong. It's just for many, they don't provide the more empowering information that we feel we have a need for. We have a longing to grow as spiritual beings. One of the primary basics of the patriarchal and chauvinistic religions is, shall we call it, the grand promise. The grand promise, which is, if you follow the rules, if you do what those authorities, tell you to do, you will be taken care of. That is the underlying message of every organized religion. It is a seed of belief that is implanted in every single human being's consciousness, and until you own it and examine it for yourself, it will lie there buried. We see this played out in so many different ways. As human beings, no matter how, for instance, a woman, no matter how successful, how educated, how evolved a woman might be, there still often is a part of her who feels that she deserves to be taken care of. And that will prove that she is loved, that she is lovable. And so because this chauvinistic, this patriarchal sort of father image has been buried deep inside, often you see women turning towards men to give them what, as a woman, you feel you can't provide for yourself. Women have power, femininity, the energies of the feminine which are available inside of men and women as well. That is the base of power. For it is only the feminine that has the power to create, to manifest. The masculine energies that are available for every human being, every spiritual being, way beyond the narrow definition of gender or sex or men. It's the masculine energies, those are available. Those are the empowering energies. Some of those are confidence and courage, strength and talent. And those energies are what we can discover within us to become empowered. But in this chauvinistic mindset that prevails in the, shall we say, the mainstream, women, no matter how powerful, at some point, in some way, seek a man or another person with masculine energy to give them what we women believe we cannot provide for ourselves. Something to look at for yourself. Where do you stand with this idea that somewhere in your life you need to get empowerment from some outside authority? If you look at that and own it and then make a choice that you're going to let that belief go and seek the empowerment within yourself. Look for the confidence and courage that is available to you. Look for the strength and talent that is inherent within you. Going back to the grand promise, which is follow the rules, do what they say, and you will be taken care of. One of the parts of that is based on, I'll say, the big lie, which is women are less spiritual than men. Every major organized religion has that attitude at its core. In some cases, the more patriarchal, the more chauvinistic religions, like the ones we see in the Middle East, the ones we see in this country represented by fundamentalist Christianity, they impose this, it would seem, this perspective, this attitude on women that they are less than men, less spiritual, less worthy, less divine. And that has been a part of our consciousness for such a long time as well. Part of the consciousness of men and women. In the mix here is that because women are inherently less spiritual than men, that belief, then the only value that women have in a man's world is that which is valuable to men. And so the value of women has been distilled down to how sexually attractive women are and how women have the capacity to conceive and bear men's children. So in the narrowest view, women are defined as sexual beings and mother figures. Now, many humans in this day and age, in this far more evolved consciousness, have grown way beyond that, way beyond that narrow definition of the value of men and women. And yet it is still prevalent in our world. Just watch the news, just watch the gossip shows, and the Academy Awards occurred recently, and it was all about how young women are, how young women look, how beautiful they are. You know, we women have subscribed to that and allowed ourselves to define ourselves that way. So there may be some of you sitting there in your living room saying, oh yeah, I hear you, Patty, and it really makes me mad about what it's like to be a woman in a man's world. A few months ago, I guess it was the one of the award shows, Sally Fields won an award for playing a mother role on one of the television shows. And at the end of her acceptance speech, she said, and if mothers ruled the world, there would be no wars. So we have been doing a lot of blaming for a long time. But it's time to take responsibility here. It's time to be grown-ups as women. It's time to be spiritual adults as men and women. And understand that we create our own reality based partially on the beliefs that we hold. So, examine your own beliefs. Perhaps write them down. Do you believe that younger is better? Think about that. Why? Why would younger be better? Well, in the old point of view, where a woman's value to a man is based on her childbearing capacity, young means something. But why is it important for a 40, 50, 60, 70, 80-year-old woman to look younger? That might be a question. Also, this idea of no matter what your age, looking hot, looking sexy. What do you believe about that? Oprah Winfrey, probably one of the greatest, or I should say most well-known women in show business, known around the world. And if anybody has been following her career, watching her show over the last 22 years or so, you've witnessed her own evolution as a human being, as a spiritual being. She talks about it. She's very open about who she used to be, what she used to think, who she is now. Even on her more enlightened show, shall we say, it still appeals to some of these consensus beliefs about women. She had her 50th birthday and a couple of years ago and talked about how 50 is the new 40. Well, who the hell cares? I mean, let's get real. Youthfulness, in the sense of eternal youth, that eternal spirit, that doesn't depend on your age or your looks. That's a quality that you have inside. And that is a part of you that comes from your spirit, that comes from your soul. A wise friend and teacher I know has suggested the importance of each of us standing firmly on our own convictions. Whatever you believe, whatever rings true for you, stand firmly on those beliefs, those convictions, and then lift up on your tiptoes and reach for a higher truth. For there will always be a higher truth. Always be a higher truth about who you are as a human being, as a spiritual being. Always a higher truth about your purpose, your divine purpose, why you're here on this planet Earth, what you're doing in this lifetime. Opening to the more. Reincarnation is, for me, a valuable body of information to understand, but with a new understanding, not talking about what certain belief systems hold to be true about reincarnation, but there's new information about that. My book, called A New Spirituality Beyond Religion, contains a lot of the basic information that I'm referring to, a lot of the details of how this all fits together, a lot of how we evolved as human beings and spiritual beings. My book is available in libraries and other places. So I urge you to take your power back, to seek to empower yourself by letting go of some of these old beliefs that limit you, opening to reaching for new beliefs that can make your life richer, more successful, that can free you from the past. I want to thank you for your attention today. It's been my joy, my pleasure to be speaking with you today. Once again, you've been watching the Living Wisdom Show. I'm Patty Paul, and I'd like to say goodbye until the next time.